All right. Back for more Thanksgiving weekend. Man, have we got a lot to be grateful for. What's Shane say? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So some of that gratitude is just the ability to work hard in a couple of the right spaces to do it. And so we're going to stay on track. And, again, there's going to be more content that we're putting out, parallel, perpendicular, whatever. But we got a lot of big plans. But this is consistent with who, not how, ultimately with 10xing your results, 100xing your results. And so to review from last week, we started with a story about a manufacturing company needing to rapidly relocate from China to India. And the owner had to make several decisions. He's going into a new country that he'd never done business in. What parts of that country would be most conducive to, because he was going to have to build a factory. Who would suppliers be? What type of political relationships did he need to have? By the way, he had answers to none of those things himself. And so instead of asking, how do I do all these things? He asked what, John?
Who can help me do all these things?
I'm laughing because I feel like I just set you up to sound like an owl. Who?
It's okay.
And then you did it like that. You did, who?
Dude, owls are cool, man. They're supposed to be really wise, right? Is that the
Yeah, well, absolutely. So instead, the owner realized that in order to move at the pace he needed to, and the political environment in China and globally was a lot that was driving it. So he needed to move at a quick pace. So he needed to ask who can help him start manufacturing in India and all of the variables involved. Who can find me the best place to build? Who can find me the best suppliers? Who can navigate the landscape? He couldn't do any of it. And it would have taken him months, if not years, to figure it out. So he asked who. The right who's proved to shave years off off the transition. And again, had he tried to figure it out on his own or with the existing team, it would have taken years. And so the ultimate quantification of success for me is not as much how much time you spend doing what you love versus how little time do you spend doing what you hate and or just shouldn't be doing because it's a bottleneck. And so time and again, shifting your mindset from how to who solves problems easier. It'll free up time in your schedule to do the things that you're more effective at. It will provide clarity and focus about your goals and your vision. It ultimately opens up bigger and bigger possibilities, which will bring bigger and better results faster, and it enables the living of one's purpose more fulfillingly, both personally and professionally. So that catches us up. We are now kind of shifting gears, but not shifting gears because it's all the same topic. We have been talking about freedom of time, but that leads to something. What's that lead to?
freedom of money.
So in the example I just gave, that owner of that manufacturing company was able to do other things. I don't know what they were, maybe find more clients, whatever. But he was able to focus on his unique abilities, which the time he got to do that by asking who in regards to transitioning to India is going to allow him to create more revenue with his time because that's what his time should be focused on. So that's the transition from freedom of time to the next logical progression, which is freedom of money. The more time you have, the more money you can create. Peter Drucker, who is kind of known as the father of modern management, in fact, somebody that my dad had introduced to me in the mid 80s or so, he said this. He said, efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things. So now we're going to pivot, right? Freedom of time leads to freedom of money. And I would think for most people, they're sitting back, John, so far saying, who, not how. Okay. Freedom of time. Okay. Show me the money. Well, we're about to start showing you the money, right? So again, we start with a story, or should I say Dan in the book starts with a story. Now he's talking about a guy named Dean. Dean also happens to be the person, and I found this interesting, that coined the phrase, who, not how. Dan just ran with it and made it a complete philosophy, if you will. Um, but Dean is a pretty significant who, consequently, to Dan. And he started a business that required a fair amount of travel. He was going from being a real estate broker to being a real estate agent coach. And that meant traveling to where his clients were. So he needed someone to clean his house on a weekly basis because he was just going to be traveling too much. And it dawned on him in that thought process, I wonder if this particular who could do more than just clean the house. Could they be a much more significant who to me in the needs that I have? Again, all that's about is freeing up his time to create more revenue. So in addition to cleaning, I'm just going to say Marie. I don't think that's right, but he asked Marie, could you, on a regular basis, instead of just cleaning, could you prepare the house for me living in it for the week? Now think about that. Cleaning to preparing the house for me to live in it for a week. So that means doing the laundry, buying and stocking the groceries, even having his car cleaned, folding the laundry, putting it away. I mean, everything every week got reset for him to show back up and live there coming off the road. He didn't have to worry about a lot of those aspects that most of us and most of you worry about on probably a daily basis. And how much time do you spend doing dishes, doing laundry, cutting grass, all of those things that if you had that time back, you could use that freedom of time to create additional revenue. And so this was this was the major building block for the entire conversation that we have had and will be having moving forward, and that John and I are adapting insofar as how we're leading our business and building our team. For us, it's ultimately about freedom of purpose, but you got to get there. And so we're working through with all of you freedom of time to now freedom of money. And here we've now been introduced to Dean, who coined the whole thought process with Marie and having her reset his condo every week in every facet of his personal life instead of just cleaning it, so that he didn't have to worry about that and he could focus more on creating more revenue. You have a thought?
Well, I would say I love piggybacking on what you said about how much time that takes up. And you don't really think about like how much time it takes to do the dishes or go grocery shopping, or just becomes part of the habit, right? That's your natural life. In addition to the
Minutia.
time, right? The minutia. In addition to the time, though, it also takes a lot of like mental capacity. I've heard, because I don't know who actually said it, but you only have so much like brain juice energy in a day. And it's like, I think it's Steve Jobs who used to wear like the same shirt every single day. And he's like, well, I don't want to have to think about or use brain energy on what color shirt to pick, right? Or what thing. And it's like when you get to that level of considering where's my focus going, where's my attention going, am I putting as much as I can into the things I'm passionate about and the things I want to grow or build? We're focused on self-managing companies, which I can't wait till we get to that section. It's gonna be really fun. But that just helps accelerate that process in getting you there faster and getting there in a more powerful way. Now, in addition to that, what I think is like even more powerful is like he took off, in addition to taking off like all the things that are like the minutia work, and then freeing up space in his time to focus on his business and really his passions and what he's building, the 20%, right? This is probably like his first iteration of getting the 80% off his plate, right? To focus
Absolutely
on,
was, yeah.
right? Focus on 20%. But you can also look at like you can tell a lot by a person and like what's going on in their head by like their environment. And what I mean by that is like if you look at someone's work desk or even like someone's car or yard or house and you see there's like a lot of clutter everywhere, it's a reflection of what's inside of their brain. And if you're the type of person that maybe you get frustrated quickly or you feel overwhelmed all the time, or you have like a long to-do list that just continues to grow and grow with more things to do, and you can't figure out why. Something as simple as just resetting your space. One of the things why I was super excited to get in here. I'm in a new place, if you guys can't tell by the background. But another story for another day. Resetting your space, cleaning up your environment. There was a movie that came out, Limitless. I don't know if you remember that or if you ever saw that, but the premise, very short tangent, probably very short. The premise was this guy found a pill that you could take and it like increases brain power by like 1,000%. The very first thing this guy did is he went and he cleaned up his entire apartment, made it spotless, because then that frees up the space in his mind to then go out and like do the things that he wants to do or really focus on the things he wants to do. So a couple different levels to that. I love them all. Freeing up the minutia, getting rid of the 80% to focus on the 20%, and then getting into an environment that's an actual reflection of like your mind, or paying attention to your environment so that you can reflect on what's going on in your mind and then taking the steps to kind of clear that up. That can be the first step in like decluttering your mind too, to then give you more power, more energy, more time to focus on the things that you really want to focus on. So a little bit of a tangent there, but I think I did a good job of like full circle bringing it all the way back
Well, that
to
also
how.
might be a clue and or red flag if you're talking to a potential who, um, and they are all over the place. They are cluttered. Their car is a mess. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? And so
Correct.
it could be a positive clue that, man, they've got an impeccable system. That means they do everything that way. Or they've got a disaster of a system. That means they do everything that way. But focusing on what this topic is, so to Dean, what this meant is he no, and here's the thing: we all joke all the time. You can't multitask. Women can't multitask either. They may fake it better, but our focus is always 100%. Your focus is always 100%. So whatever you're doing at the for however long you're doing it, you're focused on. And Dean removed from his mental space the task, and there's more to the story. I just used that one first Marie, the first person, the first who, to exemplify this. He's been he had removed lots of things, lots of clutter. I'll just stick with that. He had removed lots of clutter with who's, but that meant he no longer had to put mental energy towards them. And so what happened to his mind? He gave his mind an upgrade.
Yep.
Right? So if you take advantage of that upgrade, it'll dramatically increase your earning capacity. So investing in who's and utilizing their time frees up your time to focus on higher value or higher revenue generating activity. In turn, your earning capacity increases. Hence, freedom of money. Freedom of time through leveraging who's leads to freedom of money. Now, you simply cannot improve your money freedom without increasing the who's in your life. And that does take, I mean, honestly, what we're using in these videos is a script that I work on and then John works on. Eventually, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to find a who to do this. So they'll just turn this into us each week. And who knows, by then we might be doing 4 or 5 videos a week, but we'll have the script, the content created for us. And that will take time because they're going to have to get to know us, et cetera. But we'll invest in that who, which gives us a significant amount of time back to go create more revenue.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
looks like you thought I need to wet my whistle.
I was gonna say before you get too far away from that, because I struggled with this myself personally. Because you think I need money first. Because when we think of who's, we think of like hiring people immediately. And it's like, well, if I don't have the money, how can I like hire someone to cut my grass or clean my house or whatever it might be? And it's like that catch 22. Like you've got to like invest in your business to grow your business, but like you need money to invest in your business, right, to grow your business, you kind of like you have to, and there's a couple different ways you could do this. And I don't know if we want to like dive into all the different ways there, but even just setting up like the right collaborative partnerships and making sure that you're giving back and forth to each other, that could be something that fulfills both y'all's purposes and helps you get a little bit further. But I struggled with it for a long time. So if you're stuck there, like, well, I need the money to then go find the who's, stick with us, keep working through it. I promise you, the time freedom first then gives you the ability to go out and create exponential results and then get to that next. We're going to talk about like the removing the 80% to focus on the 20. You'll do that and go through that process a couple of times. We've said before in earlier videos, but getting rid of that 80% as quickly as you can to focus on the 20, aligning with the right who's, whatever that might look like. It doesn't mean you just go out and you hire an entire workforce to go do everything you don't want to do right now. You start with a couple of things and build on them, but you'll see 10x and 20x results in getting a couple of the right people in place to then free up your time. And that's what leads to the very quickly growing revenue and exponential results on the financial side.
Maybe. And if you remember what I said, if you utilize it correctly, I doubt seriously you can hire a Marie and go to your job where somebody else is defining your value and increase your revenue. So there's a lot more behind this. And I don't think we do want to get into those details. If you want those details or you want to consult on, collaborate on those details, make a comment. Ask us to reach out. We'll connect. One of us or both of us will connect. But this is about entrepreneurship. This is about building self-managed businesses, streams of income through income-producing assets. And there's risk in that, but that's what entrepreneurship is. That's what, what's the saying? Being broke is hard. Getting wealthy is hard. Pick your heart, right? So freedom of money, though, is about having the money you need to solve whatever problems you have. But you got to be in a position to create it. You got to be willing to take some risks to put yourself in a position to create it. But to John's point, you can start slow. It can just be a little side hustle. In our business, get your real estate license, do that part-time. Start creating, get a closing every other month as a part-time realtor. Trust me, you're about to be able to afford some who's, and it won't happen any other way. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling, and hopefully you can go. Your hope beyond hope that you can go full time as a realtor at some point. And 87% end up failing because they quit because they never get to the point because they never understand what we're talking about here today. But it is worth it. Dean used this experience, as well as the subsequent experiences I kind of alluded to over time, to define how he wanted his life to be. And here are just some clarifications that he used in that definition. But again, he didn't start here. He ended up here, right? So things like he wanted to wake up every single day knowing he'd be able to do whatever he wanted to do. He may not do it, but on a day that he woke up to wanted to do X, he did X because he could. He also had a scenario. Again, he had created this scenario to provide him that first freedom of time that I mentioned. His passive income exceeded his lifestyle needs. Now, if you're an employee, you don't have passive income if that's your only income. Sorry, but we call this the truth about success. The truth about success is woven all through these conversations, and that's one of them. You need passive income to have freedom of time to create even more resources. He wanted to be able to live wherever he chose at any given point in time, maybe in more than one place. He also wanted to be able to disappear for several months at a time and not have it impact his income. Now, listen, I know every one of you is going, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. But are you willing to do what it takes to get there? John and I can't answer that for you. We can help you with it, but we can't answer it for you. And we can't do it for you, but we can help you with it. He wore a watch out of curiosity. He didn't want to have to be anywhere at any given time. He wanted to live without deadlines. Man, what an idea that is. every day he wanted to get up and wear whatever he wanted to wear. Again, it doesn't mean he always did, but he had the freedom to do so on any given day that he chose to. And lastly, I like this the most. He said, absolutely not going to have any whiny people in his life. So that was him clarifying the rules to his life. It led him to finding who's for every aspect of his life that was clutter, to stick with John's earlier analogy. As an individual, our time is linear and finite, and none of us value it enough until something happens. You know, this year I had a health scare, changed my, I mean, I thought I valued my time. And I don't think in the end I did, but not to the degree that I needed to ultimately. And so our time is linear and finite. We only have so much of it. Duh, I'm not telling you something you don't know, but are you valuing it the way that you really ought to be? And if not, it's all about your mindset. So if you'll start changing the way you think, the stop, the habit, the society that we're in, you're conditioned to ask how. Then you have to be the one to learn how to do the how. You have to be the one to then do the how. You have to do that often for an unforeseen amount of time. And if ultimately, somehow, by behaving with that linear mindset, you have freedom of time, you might be able to start bringing in who's. But as long as you're asking how, it's going to be difficult to create that freedom of time, hence that freedom of money, to really make the transition fully to then ultimately experience freedom of relationships and freedom of purpose.
Well,
I, again, need to wet my whistle.
yeah, well, and I think before you get too far away from that, that's like the definition of the rat race. Like if you think, and you hear it in a couple different places, right? Robert Kiyosaki's big on this, talks about working a job and then debt and then having to change. But it's like another version of that same type of like vicious cycle where like if you're constantly the one or you feel like you have to be the one that has to do everything or you can do it better or you have to like, well, I want to take this new thing on, how am I going to do it? And then it's learning a new skill, developing a new skill, practicing a new skill. I mean, I've done this
We
several
all have.
times, right? We
Yep.
all have. And some of us just repeat and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and then we're laying on our deathbed. But it's like, and that gets some people exactly where they want to end up. Other people they feel very short, like they fell short, or they live with like regret on their deathbed. But that's what I hear when you hear like, how am I going to do this? You have to learn a new skill, do this. It's like every time you level up, you have to go through this entire process, and that could take months, sometimes years, before you just get to like the next step. Where to the point, this book and this information we're sharing with you will help you get is you could find someone who already knows how to do it, it's already good at it, and next week you can start having results in that area, free up that time, give you more time to focus on the higher income generating activities. And that's a new cycle that then just starts to help you get further, faster, get into that ideal lifestyle and out
But
of the
as a
rat race.
reminder, starting slow is fine.
Yes.
This doesn't happen. I mean, I only say that because you said have results in a week. I mean, it may take for the first um, for you to the first time step out into this direction. It may take weeks. It may take months, but it's progress, right? And in reality, time is attention. And I mentioned a little earlier, our attention is always 100% engaged. That's why there's no such thing as multitasking. Maybe for a split second, but your attention is always 100% engaged in something. Even if it's the wrong thing, a distraction, by asking how, you're basically committing to spending your infinite and incredibly valuable time on a given task that, in this case, is a distraction. Spending your time learning, doing, one day maybe hiring and training someone else to do it is a delay. it is a bottleneck. This line of thinking negatively impacts how you spend your time, which directly impacts your freedom of money. So you're moving backwards instead of moving forwards. Freedom of money occurs when you direct your time / attention toward higher impacting activities, higher revenue generating activities.
I remember the first time I told my dad I wanted to I wanted to make $1 million in a year. And his first thought was, that's impossible. Right? And I didn't get it because at the time, right, I'm still going through my growth all the time. And at that time, I hadn't experienced like any of this. So it's like, for me, it was just a wish, a dream. Like well, that's what I want one day. Um, it's funny we talk about the different levels of belief, right? As you're going through and progressing and live through some of them. Probably will live through a lot more. But what I got in diving into this information was my dad was thinking linearly and how, not who. And he came from
For you.
for me, right? When I
Yeah.
said that. And the epiphany I had was like when I said that, his mind went to, well, how many hours do you have to work to make that much money? Or how much would you have to get paid, right? To get that like per hour to make that much money, because that's the way that he thought. So it's a again, if you guys are if it's not sinking in quite yet, stick with us. It will, right? The more that you hear it and the more that you engage with this stuff, and you'll get more and more light bulbs going off. But it's just the deeper you get into this content, the more prevalent you start seeing. Well, prevalent's not the right word. The
The less
more,
the deeper you get, the less deep it is.
ooh, I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
And I'm sure most of you listening are thinking and perhaps then interpreting what we're saying the way John's dad did. And we get it. We did too. Um, but again, it is time invested in digesting it. Listen, we're having these conversations as much for us as for you because we have to prepare for them. We have to dive deeper into the content, have a better grasp and understanding of it. That enables us to leverage it better, right? So investing in who's means you're going to relieve your attention, take back some of your time from the lower impacting tasks. You're going to redirect your attention, your time, into tasks that will directly increase your revenue if you use that freedom of time appropriately. If you're in a scenario where you can. If you're not in that scenario, again, these are things that we'll talk offline to you, but we have ways forward for you. But you got to get in the right scenario. And especially if you're not in the right scenario and you have no idea how to get in the right scenario, you ought to be engaging us in a conversation. So when you ask who, you instantly increase your capabilities and your freedoms. Whose are the leverage to that result? Every time you add a who, you increase your capacity for the most impactful activities that you should be doing with your unique abilities and time. So, how is linear? It requires your time and your attention. Whose, or asking who, is leverage. And John and I have talked about leverage for years because we've always talked about the cash flow quadrants. And really, all we've ever said, we didn't know we were saying it. Upper right hand corner, business entity leverages what? People, which in essence means it leverages who's. So we are looking to collaborate with you. If, as you're going through this content leading up to now to today, if it's resonating with you, if you liked the definition that I gave of Dean's clarifying what he wanted his life to be like, and you'd like that life, it's not a pipe dream, but it's also not easy. But we've also got a way forward. So we're looking for collaborative partners all over North America. We are in the real estate and financial services spaces, two of the top 3 industries in the world for staying power. I mean, housing and money. It's never going to go away. So we're in a pretty good situation. We just need more who's, and maybe you are a significant who to us, and in turn, we can be a significant who to you.
You had said something that it's not easy. Anytime you're trying to change the way you think or your belief structure, I mean, there's going to be speed bumps, roadblocks, challenges, um,
Even setbacks.
setbacks, but the power in like the collaboration and like I love what Mark said, like we can be a who for you, you can be a who for us. Um, maybe you don't have to go through every single setback that we went through. We can help you collapse in those time frames. We can help by saying like, dude, we struggled with this. Here's how we overcame it. A lot of the stuff me and Mark have figured out through trial and error and working with each other. Now, amazing group, right? I mean, 1, 2, obviously you don't get much better, but jokingly, uh, we can definitely help move the thought process and belief structure along a lot faster than if you're on your own. And I always tell people like I just want to be the mentor for someone else that I wish I had. Like when I came in and when I got started down all this journey, um, very traditional. The structures I stepped into initially, and Mark saved me right from from the traditional stuff, and now we're just on an amazing path together. So, um, wanted just to throw that out there before we close up. So the closing is if you're here this long, you probably liked it. So just go down to the bottom, like the video. Um, if you think that there's good information in here that might be able to benefit someone that you know, share it with them. Right? It's a great way for you to contribute to someone in your life. And then if you want to stay up to date on the conversation as it progresses, we're going to keep going deeper and deeper, all the way down the rabbit hole, right? Until we get to freedom of purpose. And ultimately, that's like, I think that's everything, right? Freedom of everything when you get to that level. But we're on the journey. We're inviting others to come on the journey with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like, share, subscribe, and reach out if you want to
Well, and so
collaborate
with
and
that,
connect.
I really will close with this thought. And you made me think of this with being the mentor that you didn't have. If you boil everything down, peel back the onion 100% on what drives us, I've kind of alluded to it because I mean, I think that's who we are. So that's how we talk, but I want to define it. And this may become something that people hear from us a lot more often. But we want to help you catch us. We want to help you surpass us. You, if you're hearing me and I'm speaking to you and this is resonating with you, are probably better than me. And how fortunate would I be to have a significant who like you? But we bring some value to the table that can help you. But here's the thing. The most useful thing, and think about it, regardless of the situation you're in, when you get into the right circumstances, this is the mindset to maintain. The most useful thing you can do for other people is to appreciate their value. And unfortunately, far too many of us are not even appreciating our value. We're complacent to let somebody else define it. And I'm promising you, the employee or the employers out there don't appreciate your value. Some do. Don't give me any hate mail. Most don't, and they prove it to you every day. So the most important, the most useful thing you can do for other people is to appreciate their true value.